Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel for another Star Wars Battlefront II video. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different in a video I've wanted to make for quite some time. We'll be covering 5 different hero secrets that aren't all that well known and can really be a huge game changer for how you handle certain situations in both heroes versus villains and Galactic Assault. We'll be sure to help you live longer and get some extra kills where you otherwise would have missed out and died. These aren't going to really be in any sort of rank, I will count them down, but the numbers aren't based on how good they are just in a random order. I put them in this order just for the purpose of a video, and just to clarify, this will only be covering the light side heroes, not the villains. So if you'd like to see a follow-up video where I go over some secrets for the villains, be sure to leave a like on this video to let me know that's something you want. If I see enough interest, I'll get working on that right away and should be able to get it out to you sometime this week. Also, if you have any additional tips or tricks for the light side, feel free to comment those down below. But anyways guys, with all of that being said, let's get into this. So first up on the list, we have one of my favorites and something I discovered by complete accident while button mashing after being thrown off the map in Heroes vs. Villains, and that is Yoda's ability to fly using his abilities. To get the biggest distance out of this, you need to activate his abilities in a very specific order, but you can use this to get to areas you otherwise should not be able to, and I've just found this incredibly useful for cutting off certain heroes that have to run around to catch up to you. To travel the farthest, you're going to want to start out on an elevated surface, use one dash, then activate your presence mid-air near the end of the dash, then dash again, then activate your unleash ability, and then dash a third time, and you can end it with a regular saber swing or two to travel in the air even further. I have saved myself many times from death using this. It's definitely not something that is helpful in every game or every scenario, but many times I've escaped from death just by using this ability chain. I've used it probably a dozen times just to escape enemies and regroup with my team by using this as a shortcut, and I've also caught myself after being thrown off the edge a handful of times as well. If someone like Maul throws you over the edge of the map, as long as you touch a surface before hitting the ground, you can do this. You're just gonna have to time your dash right and hope you're facing the right direction, but the first time this saves you, you will be super happy you took the time to learn how to do it. I still remember on Naboo when I managed to do this to recover after Maul tossed me over the edge, and I got a very angry message from that Maul player accusing me of hacking. He said he was reporting me and that I would be banned from the Battlefront for the rest of eternity. I got a good laugh out of that one, and I don't think his report really worked there. This is a super situational tip that is super satisfying to pull off. I'm always pretty smug when I manage to implement this in a small way online, and it should be worth noting that it isn't worth doing except as a last resort. It puts your abilities in cooldown and can go wrong if you don't know what you're doing. Definitely try this in arcade before trying to do it at all online. Nonetheless, it's a super fun little secret that pretty much nobody knows about, and now that I've made this video, I would love to see some others do this online as well, maybe even to kill me or cut me off. That would be really satisfying to see. At number 4, we have a pair of similar tricks for both Han Solo and Chewbacca that applies to their shoulder charge and ground slam abilities. I'm counting these as one because honestly they're very similar in how they function, and I had more than 5 tips and tricks for this list anyway. I wanted to include them both, so I decided to just combine these into one. With the correct timing, both of these abilities are able to be used twice in a row with no cooldown, and as far as I'm aware, this is an intended feature, as DICE has made some changes to how this works over the past couple of updates. For Chewbacca, after activating his ground slam, if you let him run through the duration of his slam without actually slamming, and then press the activation button again, he will travel the full distance of his slam again, letting you cover twice as much ground in a single activation. Unfortunately, if you do this, you aren't able to actually slam, which is the trade-off for traveling twice as far much quicker, but you are able to move a lot faster for double the distance, so it's definitely worth doing in certain scenarios. In Heroes vs. Villains, this is pretty useless unless you're just trying to escape. You used to be able to charge and then slam the ground and then charge and slam again, but now they've changed it so you're only able to double activate it if you haven't slammed, and you can't slam at the end of your second run either. But for Galactic Assault, this can be an absolute game changer. His ground slam should mostly be used for escaping in that mode except as a last resort, as you do get a serious speed boost and a huge damage reduction while the ability is active, and with the power to travel twice as far, it makes the ground slam a lot more useful and will absolutely save your tail in that mode once you start utilizing it. Han's shoulder charge works in a similar way, except his can be used even after slamming into someone and killing them, so you can charge and then kill someone or knock them over, and then charge again and hit another person, which makes this even more useful than Chewie's. This can be very helpful in both Galactic Assault and Heroes vs. Villains. You can get your escape and GA when you need them, and in HVV you can knock over a pesky enemy while using the second dash to put some ground between you and the enemy before you unload your DL-44 into their head just to finish them off. It's super useful. It is tricky to get the timing right. Chewie's is a lot easier, and I'm still not 100% successful when it comes to activating this, but at this point I can do it pretty much 70 to 80% of the time. You just have to time it right at the end of the first dash. It is a fun trick. It's not very situational as it's useful pretty much all the time, and both of these come in at number 4. Moving on, we have a neat little trick with Leia, and we all know her shield is pretty situational, especially in heroes versus villains, so anything that gives it extra use is a great thing. This is something that will only help you out when you're facing off against a Phasma player, but it is sure to drive that Phasma player absolutely insane. If you place Leia's squad shield near her droid, it renders her droid completely and utterly useless. You can place her squad shield outside her droid to block it off completely, and as long as you aren't standing inside your own shield, it won't be able to shock you or your teammates, and Phasma will be forced to either destroy your shield, which takes a very long time, or just blow up her droid and wait for a recharge, which leaves her completely vulnerable. You can be standing within a foot of her droid, and even if you're well within the range of the droid's shock, it cannot do anything to you whatsoever. You can also do the opposite of this and place your shield right outside her droid, with her droid on the outer edge of the shield, and then just stand directly inside. I've done this to Phasma online a bunch of times, and what almost always happens is the Phasma player will step into your shield imagining you'll be shocked or about to be, at which point you can mess them up with a flash grenade and an E11 to the face. Other Phasma players that catch on will just destroy the droid and try to escape, and due to her turret having a massive cooldown, will make themselves pretty much a free kill as she is very soft when not relying on her turret for help. Even if you stick your head outside the shield, the droid is only able to shock you at that point and will still be unable to damage you at all. It's also worth noting that if you're playing with a team, this will also apply to them as well. They can step into your shield at any time and avoid her turret completely. Either way, whether you place her droid inside or outside your shield, it's a very, very hard counter to Phasma and messes with even the best of players, and this can also be done with the officer's shield. This is yet another way that Phasma is super easy to counter. I'll occasionally see people saying she's so hard to deal with, and that is just not the case. Even against a good Phasma player, unless they're using some really cheap tactics inside a doorway or something, anyone with more than a few brain cells firing can easily counter both her and her droid. Next up, we have what I would imagine is probably the most well-known entry on our list, but also was one of the most helpful, so I kind of had to include it, and that is Luke's ability to pretty much double jump with his force push. Luke's jump is already pretty good, it's definitely one of the best in the game, but once you combine his standard jump with a well-timed force push, he can reach much higher places and some he can't normally get to. Before anything else, do not use this trick to be a cheat player. We've all seen that absolutely garbage Luke that will sit up in an area that other players can't get to, forcing someone on the enemy team to pick Boba Fett and try to nuke him, and then that Luke player will just force push him away and be a dick. What this trick is good for is getting to places a lot quicker, and is also great for killing that garbage Boba Fett player that is sitting out of bounds. Luke's force push jump combo has helped me out in countless games. Out of everything on this list, it's definitely what I've used the most. Use it to kill cheap players or just use it to traverse more efficiently. Really, this is a great thing for everyone to know, and while a good amount of players know about this, I don't see it used nearly as often as it should be. Finally, we have a little trick for the newest hero to make his way into Battlefront 2, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and this is one I'm pretty excited to share with you. Normally, if you use his defensive rush ability, Obi-Wan will charge forward, deflecting all damage from the front and damaging anyone he comes into contact with. At the end of the rush, the ability just stops, just like Rey's dash strike. However, Obi-Wan is capable of dealing more than double the damage to an enemy with his defensive rush by pressing the attack button anytime during the rush, causing him to do a small lightsaber slam attack with his saber, striking downward onto the heads of enemies. This strike deals 150 damage to all enemies, and you can chain this on a single enemy with the regular defensive rush damage, meaning without any star card upgrades, you'll deal 290 damage every time you're able to pull this off. Once you upgrade his forward star card all the way, which boosts his defensive rush damage by 40, you'll be dealing a whopping 330 damage to every enemy you're able to chain these attacks on. Against troopers, this won't change a whole lot as his forward card will allow you to one-shot troopers anyways, but against villains and the reinforcements of Battlefront 2, it makes a huge difference and makes his defensive rush far more useful, and really takes enemy villains off guard when you're able to take more than half of the health of certain characters in a single blow. It's a huge tip, definitely implement this if you aren't already, and it takes our #1 spot. Well guys, that is going to do it for today's video. If you'd like to see a similar video for the villains of Battlefront 2, be sure to drop a like, and if I see enough interest, I'll be sure to get working on a follow-up. And as always, if you are new around here, absolutely feel free to subscribe to the channel, as we would be honored if you would join us. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. Solo, I'm Han Solo, picking up my plastic,